Hi, my name is Amanda Zieba and I'm a Wisconsin author, and in this first chapter video, I'm going to be sharing the beginnings of 3 stories with you from my Orphan Train Riders collection. Originally, these stories were told in 3 separate books. They're now all combined into one, and they were also originally published with a small indie press, but I've since reacquired the rights and control the stories. When I first started writing about this topic, I had no idea these events happened in our country's history, and so I had to do a lot of research. As I was talking to my family about this new exciting thing I was doing, my grandpa let me know that we had a family member who worked at the Children's Aid Society. That's the organization who initially put these train trips together for kids. So I reached out to her via email, and she was able to connect me with C. Warren Moses, who was actually the retired archives specialist and former CEO of the Children's Aid Society. He was able to read my stories and let me know what was plausible, what needed to be changed, and what different nationalities or different age groups experienced as they were going through these experiences. Now, none of the stories in this book are true stories, but they're based on historic events, and he told me that they are incredibly accurate to things that might have happened to kids on these orphan trains. Here's what he said. These stories are wonderful, believable, and historically consistent with many of the true stories. They brought a tear, goosebumps, and the chills. So I was so grateful for him to be able to help me through this research process and really learn what it was like for these kids back in the day of the orphan trains. Now, I know that there is a lot of sad history connected to these events, and I know that all of my stories start out very, very sad, but I promise happy endings for all of the characters, for Charles, Joanna, and William. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to read the first few pages of each of the 3 stories and give you a little bit of a taste of their adventures on the train. The first story in the book is called Charles' Christmas Gift. Chapter 1. Charles woke up in a dark, cold room. Through his sleepy eyes, he looked around at the bed and the small table next to it. On the table, the stub of a candle flickered, but didn't give off enough light to view the room properly. The blanket that covered him was scratchy, but he pulled it closer, trying to get warm. It was then that he realized he was holding something else. Clutched in his cold fingers was a small cloth-wrapped package. In the dark room, he was unable to see its contents, so he rolled over, hazily wondering where his mother was, and then fell back asleep. The next time he woke, sharp rays of winter sun were shining through the window. The city was ready for another noisy day. Huddled in his blankets, he tried to remember how he had gotten into this room. Suddenly, he remembered the package in his hands. Charles sat up and carefully unwrapped the fabric and twine to reveal a letter, a newspaper clipping, and a few coins. Confused, Charles climbed out of bed, put on his coat, and walked out the door. He saw a dimly lit hallway that looked no more familiar than the room where he had just slept. Charles wandered for a few minutes before finding the front office and the matron in charge. She looked, at least, with her friendly smile and red apron, somewhat familiar. When she saw him, her smile faded, and she looked at him with sad eyes. He didn't know why, but he suddenly had a sick feeling in his stomach. Unable to make a single sound, he handed over the letter. The matron showed him to a small sitting room and lowered him onto the comfy couch. After a deep sigh, she began to read him the letter. My dearest Charles, no one in this world has brought me more joy than you. I'm sorry I cannot give you the life I dreamed for you, but do not doubt that you are greatly loved. You know that I have been sick, and I think that my end is near. I'm going to the hospital because I cannot bear to have you wake and see me lifeless. Please remember as I look the day you were born, the happiest woman on earth. Our picture is in my locket, which I now give to you. The matron of this lodging house has agreed to take you to the Children's Aid Society, where you will be put on a train with other children to go west and find a new home. I will be watching you from heaven. For Christmas, I am sure that you will get a special gift, a new family. Be brave, my Charles. All my love, Mama. Is she? Charles asked reluctantly, afraid to say the word dead aloud. Yes, darling, she's gone to live with the angels now. This news brought on a fresh wave of tears, through which the matron silently rocked him. Afterward, she dried Charles's eyes on her apron and gently reached for the collar of his shirt, pulling out a chain that had been fastened around his neck. Charles recognized it immediately as the necklace his mother wore and quickly opened the beautiful locket that hung from it. Through bleary eyes, he gazed upon his mother's loving face and began to cry all over again. The matron was patient and kind and let him wear out his grief and spill his tears while she softly stroked his sandy brown hair. At one point, the matron's assistant brought in a small breakfast and Charles was persuaded to sit up and eat. While he ate, she told him of the journey he was about to take. "Charles, this is Anne." Charles looked up at the assistant's beautiful face and dark hair through watery eyes. "She is also going on the train your mother wrote of. She's heading to Canada to go back and live with her own family. She has been working in New York for a few years to raise money, but has decided to move back home. I spoke to her last night about you, and she has agreed to be your riding partner until she switches trains for Toronto. So you see, there's nothing to fear." It was only barely an hour into the day, and Charles was exhausted. It was all he could do to nod, and then silently eat the breakfast that was placed before him. So in the next chapter, Charles and Anne head to the train station, where they meet up with people from the Children's Aid Society, and then he continues on his journey. Again, I know it starts so sad, but I promise, hang in there till the end. The next story in this collection is called Joanna's Journey. And I specifically remembered when I was writing this that I wanted to have a girl main character. So that's where Joanna came from. Here's where Joanna's journey starts. Chapter 1. Joanna knew that her speed would be the reason she'd escape, so she didn't care that her feet pounded the road and her breath came out in ragged puffs. She didn't chance a look behind her. She didn't want to waste the time. She knew who was there, a bulky cop in a Navy City Patrol uniform. She'd run into him before, and she didn't want to meet up with him again any time soon. She dodged the trash bin, hurdled a stack of crates holding squawking poultry, and continued to run down the busy street, her prize clutched tight in her fist. When she thought her lungs would explode, she ducked into a building and slumped noisily down onto a bench. When she caught her breath and looked up, she was surprised to see the room was full, and all of them were staring at her. "Glad you could make it," a well-dressed man said in her direction. "We leave for the train in a few minutes and had just one spot left. It looks like you're the girl to fill it. What's your name?" "Joanna," she answered between puffs. She didn't look much like a girl with her short, greasy hair hanging down in front of her dirty face, but she was silently thankful the man hadn't called her a boy. Figuring that whatever was happening here was better than a night in jail, she hid her confusion along with the stolen bread in her hand. As the man promised, the group departed a few minutes later. They walked to the train station nearby in a neat, quiet line. The train station was massive and crowded with people. Joanna nervously glanced around, afraid the patrolman might still find her. She hung near the back of the group and watched with interest as several tickets were ordered and the group was herded into a train car. Joanna reluctantly followed the other children into the car and took a seat. She had no idea what was going on, but at the moment she was too nervous and afraid to ask anyone. To her horror, the man from the building, the one who seemed to be in charge, sat down next to her. "I know it can be a bit nerve-wracking, but you are making the right choice," he said kindly. "You missed my introduction back there at the Children's Aid Society. My name is Mr. Swan, and my wife, Miss Hattie, and I will be traveling with you until you are adopted by a new family. We'll be stopping in Iowa, Nebraska, and if necessary, Oklahoma." Why would somebody want me? The question slipped out before she could think about what she was saying. Some people aren't able to have children of their own, and this is a great opportunity for them to have a family. Also, many people out west live on farms and need more children to help with the many chores, Mr. Swan explained. Sounds kind of heartless if you ask me, taking kids away from the only place they've ever known. Mr. Swan sat a moment, thinking about what Joanna had said, and then responded. "Do you see that baby over there that Miss Hattie is holding? It was left on a subway last week. It was brought to us and now we are bringing it to a family who wants a baby." Joanna looked across the train at the tiny bundle in Miss Hattie's arms. "Tell me there's no heart in that. She probably won't have any other memories than the parents who will adopt her this week." "I suppose it could work," Joanna agreed reluctantly. "It has in the past," affirmed Mr. Swan. "So that's where we're headed now?" "Yes." So Joanna continues on the train, but you'll have to read the story to find out if she finds a new family. The last story in the book is called Irish Strong William, and it's about a little boy who was coming from Ireland to America with his father. Chapter 1. There's nothing left for us to love in Ireland. Ireland killed everything we loved, your mother, your sister, and all of our potatoes. America, that's where we'll be going. They will have food in America. I will get a good job building railroads in America. Everything will be better in America, Da declared. America, America, America. William had been hearing about America for the past uncountable number of days as their ship crossed the ocean. He didn't much care where the ship stopped, as long as it stopped. And soon. He'd had enough of this smelly, rocking ship full of sick people. America, America, America. His father wasn't the only one talking about America. His new friend Shane, who was traveling alone, talked about it constantly. There are big buildings in America. Anyone can earn lots of money in America. The richest people in the world live in America. Shane would ramble on. America, America, America. William was glad his little brother Hugh couldn't talk yet, but he wouldn't be surprised if his first word was America. William was glad he wasn't talking yet. It was obvious to William that everyone on the boat really wanted to get to America. What wasn't obvious to him was why America would want them, a boat full of starving and tired Irishmen. When they finally landed, they stood in a long line, took showers, and then waited to be examined by doctors. Throughout the entire process, When they finally landed, they stood in long lines, took showers, and then waited to be examined by doctors. Throughout the entire process, Shane chattered away about America. Do you know they call entering America walking through the golden door? I wonder if there's lots of gold in America. Maybe I can find some and send it back to my family in Ireland. One day we'll have enough and they'll be able to join us here, and then all of us will live together again. America, that's where everything's going to change. At last it was their turn to be examined. Shane went first, then William, then baby Hugh, and finally Da. Sir, I'm sorry, but you'll have to step out of line, the doctor said firmly to William's father. What's wrong? Da asked, alarm creeping into his voice. Only healthy people are allowed to be led into America. You are sick. You have tuberculosis. I can see the beginning stages in your throat. It's not uncommon for people sharing small spaces like the boat you've been traveling on to contract the disease. I'm sorry, but you will not be allowed into the country. What am I supposed to do? Da asked in shock. You can go back to where you came from, the doctor said coldly. But what about my boys? Da asked in panic. They are healthy. They can continue in. Please move aside. I have more immigrants to examine. Da walked nimbly to the side of the room, motioning William and Hugh into his arms. Shane also walked over. Boys, I don't know what to do. I wish your mother were here, Da whispered, hugging them close. The three of them stood silently, hugging fiercely until Da spoke again suddenly. Shane, you are traveling alone. Do you want some company? The boy stammered, unsure of what to say. Would you take William? I will give you our travel money, Da said, pressing a wad of bills into his hands. You are old enough to find good work. Together you two can make it. Shane looked at him in shock, but finally answered, yes, I can take him. Listen, William, Da said sternly. There is nothing for you in Ireland. If you come back, you will surely starve. I'm sick. I cannot help you anymore. I will take baby Hugh and travel back to your grandmother. She will take care of him. Da, please don't leave me, William begged. I don't want to hear another word except this. Trust? Da began, waiting for William to complete the family motto. In God, William said softly. Honor, Da continued, your family. Irish, strong. William finished looking into his Da's shining green eyes. Nothing else needed to be said. William's father gave him one more tight hug, stood holding Hugh with one arm, turned and walked out the door. Shane took hold of William's hand and marched him in the opposite direction, to America. Like I said, I know those are 3 pretty sad and heavy chapters to start with, but they do have good endings, and they do have a lot of great history about this time period, and I would love for you to read them. Once you finish reading them, you can head over to my website where I have discussion guides and also educational learning guides for each of the 3 books. I hope you've enjoyed learning about these stories, my very first ones ever published, the Orphan Train Riders. You can find links for all of them down in the description below, and I hope you'll check back again for even more stories with me. All right, see you later.